So you can see here that I've drawn every shape for my lion now. In fact, if I turn off the original image on the first layer, you could see each shape or each color is its own individual shape that you can select. I'm going to turn on my image layer one more time, and I'm going to use it as a template to create what is now going to be the black outline for all these shapes. So I have my artwork on the top layer, and I'm going to lock that. I have my image, the original image, below that. I'm going to lock that layer, and I'm going to create one more layer that sits in between the two. I'm going to create a new layer that sits above the image layer and below the artwork layer. Remember, the artwork layer is what contains all the shapes that I've drawn, and the image layer contains the original image. So on layer 8, which we'll now rename as outline, is where I'm going to draw my shape that's going to become the main black outline. And this is really simple. It's like drawing all the shapes you've done before. This time it's just going to follow the very outside edge of the original drawing. Okay? So I am going to turn off my fill, and I'm going to work with a stroke color that I can see pretty well. And I'm also going to make sure my layer color is something I can see. So I'll change that to dark blue. And I will begin drawing or tracing my outside shape. And again, remember, it doesn't have to be perfect the first time you draw it. You can always go in and change it with your white arrow and your Convert Anchor Point tool. Now, as I'm using the pen tool, I move around my canvas by pressing down the space bar, and that lets me move the canvas without having to relinquish my pen tool. Again, I'm creating extra anchor points in some of these small or tight areas that have quick change in direction of the line. And in larger areas where there isn't such a dramatic change in direction, I use less anchor points and rely on my tangent lines to make the curve. Now here, this is a little bit tricky, because if I want to create a point over here, you're going to see that my stroke follows along this tangent line. We're going to come back and fix that when we're done, because that looks very messy. This is a complicated shape. It's taking a lot of time to draw this. Okay, almost there. Remember, click and drag to create tangent lines. We have another little issue here because of the change in direction. That's okay. We'll come back and we'll fix that. Same here. We'll come back and we'll fix that. And you want to make sure that you close your shape. So you hover over the very first point that you created. You see next to the pen tool, there's this little open circle. That means you're going to close the path. Alright, now if we just do a quick preview and swap the fill and the stroke, we'll see we have a purple outline. And we can also see very clearly the areas that were problematic. So I grabbed my white arrow, my direct selection tool, and I'm going to choose these individual anchor points and see if I can modify the tangent lines in order to fix the curve. The first thing I'm going to do is shorten this tangent line, and I'm going to do it carefully because these two tangent lines are connected, meaning if I'm not careful, I can modify the tangent line on the other side of the point. So I'm shortening that tangent line, and now I'm going to come in here and shorten this one as well, and that seems to have corrected the problem. I'm also going to move some of my points, hold down spacebar to move along the canvas, and I'm just cleaning up my line. And this is what you're going to want to do once you draw these shapes. I'm going to shorten that tangent line just a little bit, bring this point out. This looks a little bit funky in here. I'm just going to move my points, shorten that tangent line, and fix that curve. It's a meticulous process, but it's great practice with the pen tool. If you do a couple of these, you'll be very, very comfortable with the pen tool and be able to do anything regarding that. Okay, so we have another issue here. Same story. I'm going to shorten my tangent lines, see if that fixes the problem. It seems to have done a nice job. I'm going to move some of these points in place. This one is tricky. Let's see if shortening the tangent line will work. Got to be careful about where the other line is. Good, not bad. Oops, I lost my point. I'm going to hover over my line, and it looks like it's right there. Click, and then grab the tangent line, click and drag. Move this point up a little bit, this point out, and we're moving along our line. This is looking pretty good. Alright, we missed the mark here. This is a little bit of a strange curve. Shortening my tangent line and also changing the direction of the tangents, and that helps. Good. Good. Occasionally you'll find a need to delete a point or add a point. You do that with your pen tool. So over here, I could probably delete this point. The way you do that is you hover over the point and you see a little minus sign next to the pen. Click, and that deletes the point. Now it modified our curve, so I'll come back, choose my white arrow, and I'm going to extend these tangent lines and fix that curve. If ever you need to add a point to a line, if you hover over an area where there is none and click, that will create an anchor point for you. We don't need one there, so I'm going to undo that. I'm going to zoom out and see how everything looks. Not bad, I'm pretty pleased with it. So I'm going to change my purple color to a rich black. Click OK, and there I have my black outline, and this looks very much like the original image. Finally, before I save this, I'm going to delete the original image because that does not need to be in the file any longer. Yes. And now I have strictly vector artwork in my final file. And that is how you'll want to turn this in. You can either save it as an Illustrator file, or you'll want to save it as an Adobe PDF file. And that's it.